I can see myself on the
Preston, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Cool.
I can hear you and see you.
Okay, good.
How about me?
I can hear you and see you as well.
Awesome.
I see Sandra's here.
Yes, we got Sandra here. We got Janelle on as well on her iPhone, and Michael is sitting next to her. Are y'all not, Sandra? Are y'all not able to hear? Sandra, are y'all not able to hear? Okay. So you can hear me on my phone, but you can't hear me on the Zoom. So you need to you must have something muted or something. I don't know.
Yeah, on the computer, if you have the computer on and the phone, it'll cause feedback. So you have to mute one of them.
Yeah. Okay, if you can hear Mr. Rayfuse, then that's good. Sandra, you're not talking, so you've got to unmute. You got something muted. Hey, Sandra, you can hear me through my phone, but not the computer. So if I leave my phone on, I don't want to cause any disruption because it'll cause feedback. So are you able to hear through the Zoom yet? No, Sandra, you're talking and nobody can hear you. Okay, she can't hear you. Can you hear me through the phone?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, so I'm gonna mute right now and do a test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, who heard that countdown?
I heard you.
Okay, Robert, thank you. Janelle, could you not hear that countdown?
No.
Okay, can you hear Robert?
Janelle, can you hear me?
Janelle, Robert just said, can you hear him? Did you hear him?
No.
Okay, you guys got to fix something. Y'all got something.
Probably go out and come back in. And
yeah, try to go out and come back in on your phone. So if I have to leave my phone on for them, Robert, is it causing any feedback right now?
right now it's not.
So Janelle, yeah, y'all got to figure that out. Sandra just study moving her lips, and nobody can hear anything you're saying, Sandra. We can see you smoking that cigarette, though.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you on my phone.
Okay, I that my microphone is unmuted. So where is?
Okay, I can hear you on the phone, but I cannot hear you through the Zoom. So we got 5 participants on right now. I can see you guys in the room, Janelle and Sandra.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, let me turn down my phone. I can hear you through my phone, Sandra, but I need to be able to hear you through the Zoom.
She might be able to participate just by phone if she wants to call that phone number that's on the link.
Is that Robert?
Yeah, but you probably hearing them through my phone. So there's an option to call in and go back to that email. If you guys can't get in. Janelle, I can see you're in the room, but you're muted. So
She
your
also has her camera off too.
yeah, your microphone's unmuted, so I don't understand why I can hear you, but your camera's muted as well. Unmute your camera. Yeah. Y'all got to step into 2022 over there. Oh boy. Sandra, you're back in the room. Try to talk now.
Okay, I think I redid it.
Yes, you're
There you
in.
are.
So what did you do to tell Janelle? Redo it again?
I had to go all the way out, close all my apps up, and then start the process all over again.
You hear that,
I-
Janelle?
Yeah.
Make
Okay,
sure
so
you
Sandra's
use a
in.
cellular or Wi-Fi.
You're not driving, are you?
No, I'm sitting in my car in front of the hospital.
Oh, I see. Okay. I had one client that was driving during a hearing. The judge says, pull over.
So Janelle, yes. So Janelle, go all the way out and come back in. Cassandra's in now.
Tell her make sure she close all her apps.
Well, close everything out that you were doing if you were doing anything, and then come back in.
Looks like Michael's with Janelle.
Correct. Yes, he's sitting right next to Janelle.
All right.
All right. Let me go out.
And I don't see James and Perry. Did they decide to come to the in-person room, or
I don't know.
no? You're still just coming through my phone. You're not coming through the Zoom. So you're still in as a participant. I can see your name, but you're not coming across like Sandra is right now. So
I'm all the way out.
Janelle, there should be a call option with a phone number. You might want to try that option. It should be in that email, but I'm not understanding because you're in as far as the participants, you're showing up in the Zoom room.
You never have to hang up your phone call. That's what
Okay, let me hang up with you, Janelle.
Yeah, that probably would help.
Yeah, okay, maybe that'll help.
So how much did you have the house sold for before Perry refused to sign for it?
Where's his voice today? Right.
You'll hear him. He'll be coming on just a minute.
Okay.
Okay, we'll sit right there. I'll shut the door.
Thank you,
You
ma'am.
can sit down there. They'll come on. Sit right there. Come to the store. So I'm sure.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, I
Hi,
can.
Janelle.
I don't hear nothing.
Preston, can you hear Janelle?
You'll hear it in just a minute.
I see everybody. I just don't hear them.
Janelle, you're
Turn it-
good. We can hear you.
Oh, right there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Cool. Got it.
Don't touch that dial.
I'm not
Right.
touching it.
Right, we ain't doing none of that.
I don't need a phone.
All right, we got everybody here.
Believe so, Your Honor.
All right.
Unknown caller. How you turn it off?
You lost.
All right, let's go on the record. Cause number CCL1-PR 2021-0157 in the estate of Teresa Carlock, deceased, here today on a application for probate of the will. Court will take judicial notice of the contents of the court's file. Mr. Rayfuse, you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Rayfuse, in your application, you said that Ms. Seaton was going to file a declination. Have you done that?
Actually, after I filed that, she's decided that she wants to be a co-executor, and we're okay with that. So I'm going to abandon that particular section of the application. We'll name both of them as co-executors.
Right, but the application that was posted only named Mr. Carlock. Am I correct?
Correct.
Do you need to replead?
And make a trial amendment. I think everybody would be
If no one
accepting.
has an objection to it.
I object, Your Honor. I'd like to see documentation on the executorship. Here I have as exhibit 1. This is.
Hang on. No. If there's an objection, Mr. Rayfuse, you have to replead because it has to be reposted. The citation by posting would be insufficient.
Understand.
All right. Well, then I guess we will have to replead, and then after the 20 days have run on the posting, if we're going to have co-executors, then we will set up the hearing again.
Mr. Rayfuse, I don't mind being the sole executive.
Well, Sandra, what do you think? I mean,
Yes,
we would have to replead the application to include you as a co-executor, and we would need to wait 20 days or more before we have a hearing. So do
you can
you
leave
want
press,
to? Go ahead.
you can leave Preston as the executor.
So you do decline to serve as the co-executor then?
If we gotta wait another 20 days, yes.
All right, we'll proceed. Mr. Rafe, go right ahead.
All right. Applicant will call Preston Carlock.
Mr. Carlock, can you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Rafe.
Thank you. State your name.
Yeah, Moses Preston Carlock III.
You're the son of Teresa Carlock Davis,
I am.
and you are one of many of her children, right?
Correct. I'm the youngest of 6.
And in the will that was previously admitted to probate as muniment of title, you were one of the named executors of the estate.
That is correct.
And prior to your testimony, Sandra has agreed to decline her right to serve as an executor of the estate so that you would be the sole executor.
Yes, sir. I agree.
The will, which was admitted to probate, was dated February 20th, 2015. At the time, your mother was married to Will Davis.
That is correct.
Has Will Davis passed away?
He has passed away. He passed away before my mom.
You remember the approximate year?
I'm gonna say 2006 17, maybe approximately 2007.
And after Will passed away, you're not aware of any marriage that your mother had? She didn't remarry?
No, she was not remarried after Mr. Will died.
What are the names of the 6 children that your mom had?
Her oldest is James Edward Mason. Second is Michael Paul Mason. After that is Janelle Mason, Perry Mason, Sandra Mason, and myself, Moses Preston Carlin.
To your knowledge, she did not adopt any children or have any children after February 20th, 2015.
No, she did not.
And is there now a need to administer this estate? Meaning that an executor needs to be named at this time?
Yes, there is. There is a need.
And what is the need for administration?
Currently, right now, on the home or the property at 1704 North Beverly Drive, there's currently 5 names listed that have ownership of that property, as left in the will by Teresa Davis Carlock. With that, there are some disagreements on whether the sale of that home, which is currently occupied by Mr. Perry Mason, at this time. There are some from the other siblings on the panel that wish to sell that home or requesting to sell that home monetarily right now. That they be split 5 ways from the profit of that home versus someone just living in there free.
Had a buyer been located before today?
Yes, there had. That's actually when the issues with how the will was probated came about. We actually had a buyer for the home, and when it got to the final stages, it was determined on that side by the buyer's closing office that the will had not been appropriately probated, and that the way it was probated at that time would require all 5 signatures in order to agree to sell the home.
Did Mr. Perry Mason, did he offer to sign to agree to that sale?
No, he did not offer to agree to the sale of the home.
Has he offered to purchase the home from the estate?
He has. The original conversation was that Mr. Mason needed some time to improve his credit. And after that time, he would purchase the home at 1704 North Beverly Drive. He's had that time. He's been an occupant right now, approximately 14 months, which the rest of the siblings felt was ample time to improve your credit and buy the house, which he has failed to do so, which is why we're here today to go ahead with the sale of the home.
Your mother passed away February 27th, 2021.
That is correct.
The property you're talking about is in Wichita Falls, Wichita County, Texas.
It is.
Although your mom passed away in Fort Worth, she actually had a residence and domicile in Wichita Falls, Texas.
Yes, the 1704 North Beverly Drive was her resident. She was living with my sisters. Actually, both were her caregivers at the time of her death, which was in Sandra Seaton's Fort Worth address.
Objection, Your Honor.
What's your objection?
Well, that's not correct, because since James Mason's been back in Wichita Falls in 2007.
Hang on.
he's been the
First of all,
caretaker.
wait. First of all, what's your name?
My name is James Mason. I am he.
All right. Mr. Mason, you're representing yourself today?
Yes, I am, sir.
All right. State your legal basis for your objection.
The legal basis for my objection to President Carlock is that the time of my mother's living at 1704 North Beverly, I was the caretaker for her.
That's not a legal objection. If you're going to represent yourself, I'm going to treat you just like an attorney as far as the rules of evidence. And for every other matter, I need a legal
Okay.
basis for the objection.
Well, flat out, it's a lie. If you don't offend the judge.
Well, doesn't offend me, but it's overruled.
Okay, thank you very much.
Go ahead, Mr. Rayfuse.
All right, so Preston, how are you currently employed?
Sir, I'm a active duty major in the United States Army.
And I take it you go through a severe background check before you join the military?
Sir, I have a top secret government clearance at this time.
So you have no criminal convictions that would disqualify you from serving as an executor?
None at all.
And you are willing to accept the letters testamentary to be the executor of the estate?
Yes, I am.
That's all I have for this witness. I'll pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Mason, since you're representing yourself, do you have any questions for the witness?
Yes, I do, sir. Well, can I intervene with some history on this probate, sir?
No, sir. The only thing we're looking at is letters testamentary and if they should be granted to Mr. Carlock.
Okay, well, I want to present a document that I filed in 2021 to the Wichita Falls Police Department. I'd like to bring that into the proceedings if I can. It's got a case number 10160. Detective Foster was the detective on this case.
What does it pertain to?
It's pertaining to the incident of Teresa Carlock Davis. I filed a charging instrument against Sandra and Charles Seaton and Janelle Chippewa for the kidnapping, theft of property, finances, kidnapping of Teresa Carlock Davis, and possible murder. The theft of
Hang on. What does that have to do with Preston Carlock being the executor?
Well, it's because if there's rules and regulations as being an executor, then they need to be brought up, because the way that my mother's estate was handled wasn't correct.
Well, hang on a second. The estate hasn't been handled by an executor. The only thing
Well,
that
her estate has been.
No, sir. When I talk, you don't. The only thing that was done in the estate so far was a monument of title was issued. There has been no handling of the estate. That's why we're here today, to appoint an executor. The only thing we're hearing today is the application of Mr. Carlock and whether he be appointed executor of the estate or not.
Okay, well, I'm object to that. And I recommend that Perry Mason be included on that decision.
That's not what the will states.
The will do state that if not Preston or Sandra can continue as executor, then it can be of someone else.
That's
appointed.
why
The
we're
will does
here.
state that.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here. Mr. Carlock has requested to be the executor of the estate. If you have a valid objection and evidence as to why Mr. Carlock should not be the executor, now is the time to raise it.
Well, I don't know if this got anything to do with.
Hang on. Who are you?
I'm Perry Mason.
All right. Well, you don't get to talk yet. You'll have to be called as a witness. You have nothing on file.
Okay. Now, when you say objection and I had to have legal grounds, does that mean any activity to dealing with the local authorities or something like that?
If it rises
To
to
object
the
to
level,
his having the executorship?
will you let me answer?
Because
If it only pertains to Mr. Carlock. If it rises to the level.
Right. When I was at my mother's house at the time of her death,
Hang on. You don't get to testify yet. Only thing you're doing now is questioning the witness.
All right. Preston Carlock, didn't you call the authorities on me at my mother's property after her funeral, and you and Sandra barred me from my own mother's property?
But
Didn't you and Sandra
I'll be glad to answer that. The response to that is yes, there were
Okay.
direct.
My next question is, did you and Sandra bar me from my mother's funeral? Didn't you and Sandra Seaton
on,
bar me from
hang
my
on.
mother's funeral at the time of her funeral in Wichita and Wautega?
Hang on.
Sir,
Again, when I
I'm
start
trying to
talking,
attack the credibility, sir.
when I
His
start
credibility.
talking, you stop.
Yes, sir.
Do not talk over each other. I have a court reporter taking this down. She cannot take down when you talk over each other. You ask the questions, Mr. Carlock will answer the questions. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. The answer to the question is yes. The local authorities, actually even involved the FBI, was asked to bar Mr. James Mason from the funeral due to death threats made from him to Sandra Seaton and Janelle Thibodeau, with his claims that they were responsible for my mother's death. So with the danger of those threats, those direct threats made by Mr. Mason, absolutely, we did ask authorities to prevent him from attending the funeral for safety reasons.
Next question, Your Honor. May I ask him another question, sir?
Go right ahead.
Did you and Sandra Seaton bar me with the local authorities to not to be able to attend? No, first off, not to be able to go to my sister's house to visit my mother. Y'all controlled the phone calls. Didn't you and Sandra Seaton bar me from her funeral?
Objection. The question is like multiple questions in one. Break it down.
Yes. Did you and Sandra Seaton bar me from my mother's funeral in Wautega?
The answer to that question, again, would be yes. Again, for the same reason, there were direct death threats made from Mr. James Mason to me, referencing Sandra Seaton and Janelle Thibodeau.
Sir, can I ask him what the threats are? I mean, where is his proof of I threatened him?
It has no bearing on him being appointed as executor, but since the attorney's not objecting, you can go ahead and ask the question.
Where's your proof on me threatening you and Sandra? Is it the case that I filed in this case here, claiming theft of an elderly, kidnapping of an elderly, and murder of an elderly? Is this the threat? I put this before the court. Is that the threat, sir?
Again, I will answer this. If the question is the reason that law enforcement barred James Edward Mason from our mother's funeral proceedings, it was because of direct verbal threats he made directly referencing Sandra L. Seaton and Janelle Thibodeau to me over the phone, referencing his opinion and the result of our mother's death and what he was going to do to Janelle Seaton, to Janelle Thibodeau and Sandra Seaton.
Do you have any text messages to confirm that, or any voice messages
Objection,
on your
Your Honor.
phone?
This is going beyond the scope of this hearing.
Well, I have threats from him and the family myself, okay, on my phone. Text messages from the nephews threatening me, you know. And,
Mr. Mason.
so I like to put that as evidence for his character, because, you know, later when they buried my mother, all of them, including Sandra Seaton and nephews, was at my mother's house with guns in their hands. I called the police, I called the authority on that, so it's recorded. It's on
Objection,
record.
Your Honor.
It's
The
authority to be
party
to
is
be found.
testifying rather than asking questions.
Mr. Mason, you'll have an opportunity to testify. Right now, it's time to ask questions of the witness.
Okay. Cousin Carla, do you have any text messages or voice mail messages or even recorded messages of me threatening you and Sandra Seaton?
I did not save any recorded messages from Mr. James Mason referencing his threats.
Then it's hearsay, Your Honor.
Oh.
What part is hearsay? He was answering.
Well, he don't have any evidence other than him saying that I said this and she saying that I said that, and I know I didn't say that.
And again, it
So
has.
I'll ask if there's any text. I got text messages that I was threatened, sir. I'm sorry.
Again, it has no bearing right now on this hearing. Next question.
Mr. Carla, where did you obtain the $10,000 on each one of your properties that you purchased? I think you have about 5 properties. And in that money coming from an account of Teresa Carlock Davis, at least in February 8th, she had an amount of $80,000 in her account. There's questions I need to know. Do you know where this money is?
So as far as any property that I own, I don't see where that has any reference in this case. I am a major in the United States Army. I work for my income. So any property that I own has been purchased by me and only me.
I have a document in front of me, Mr. Carlock. I asked you, there's a total amount in my mother's account, February 8th, the same month, 2021, of $81,000. Could you tell me where this money is?
Mr. Mason, I am not on that account. I have no information related to that account. If there's another name on that account, you might want to reference someone would have access to that account, because it is not Moses Preston Carlock III.
So as executor, aren't you supposed to have that information?
Mr. Mason, you obviously not very familiar with probate. The executor has to be appointed first, and then the property is gathered, and then there's an inventory made to the court. But first, you have to get an executor appointed.
Yonder, okay. Moses Preston Carlock, wasn't you and Sandra pretending and telling the family y'all was co-executors, Teresa Carlock Davis probate?
So according to the original will, I think all parties have, at least our attorney and hopefully the judge have in front of them. You can see the will of Teresa Davis Carlock. Her last wishes were that the co-executors would be Moses Preston Carlock III and Sandra Seaton.
And as co-executor, sir, as the judge has said, you would have to list the properties of Teresa Carlock Davis. Do you have that list?
Only
Being
after
a
he is
co-executor,
appointed. Hang on.
they haven't nominated you. I'm just asking because he took a responsibility, sir.
No, he did not. Mr. Mason, he does not have any responsibility until the will is probated and the application for executor is granted. To this point, it has not been done. It has only been a monument of title.
Okay, what are the grounds, Mr. Carlock, are you using to gain this property to sell to end the legacy of your mother and your father?
So can you explain the question a little bit more clear? What are the grounds that I'm using to sell the property?
Yeah, what are your reasoning that you're using to sell the property at 1704 North Beverly?
Okay, so currently right now, there's 5 names listed on that property as left by Teresa Davis. Of those 5 names, there is no one benefiting monetarily from that property but Perry Mason, who has lived rent-free for 14 months. I have a brother, Michael Mason, that is in a wheelchair, that has medical bills, that would benefit and would need to would benefit from the sale of that property for his support that he's in right now. My mother was a great supporter of him. He's on his own right now, and he's in financial need. I have a sister, Janelle Thibodeau, who is 63 years old, has a tremendous amount of medical conditions, has a very physical job as a truck driver, that she's not going to be able, she's looking towards the next stage, would benefit from monetary support from the sale of that house. I have a sister, Sandra Seaton, whose husband has recently taken ill, which was the second income for the support of Sandra Seaton, where it currently right now, he is not working, is in the hospital in very critical condition, where she would benefit from the sale of that house. So I've got 3 siblings that have some very, very critical needs in their life that would benefit from the sale of that home. And the fact that we have only 5 siblings on the house, which me being in agreement, that makes it 4-1. I also like to point out that James Edward Mason was not left on the house due to the fact that my mother did that intentionally because she gave him my grandfather's property at 1800 Avalon. But he is not on the house. There's only 5 names. So out of those names, we're basically looking at a 4 versus 1. And that is the reason why I, as the future executor of the property, I have decided to sell the home.
President, are you aware of the eldest son law in the state of Texas?
Objection, Your Honor. He's not a lawyer. If he doesn't know, he doesn't know.
You can answer if he doesn't
Well,
know.
someone want to explain that to him? Because in the state of Texas, the eldest son is included, and it had to be some intent on the part of the co-executors to take me off of that wheel. I was
Mr.
born in that
Mason?
house. I
Mr.
was
Mason.
diaper.
I would like
Mr.
to answer
Mason?
that question.
I don't know what Google search you have run. You do not know the law. You do not understand the procedure. Mr. Mason, you need to question the witness with regard to this executorship, period, end of story.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Your Honor, as far as that eldest.
Hang on, no,
You don't need to answer it.
it doesn't. There
Right.
is no question pending. Next question, Mr. Mason.
I'll leave. No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Ray Hughes.
Preston, have you done anything following the death of your mom to harm or damage her estate?
No, I have not.
Other than the home, do you know much about her current assets?
As far as outside of the home, Mom did not have a lot of assets. So outside of the home, that was the major asset left to her by my father, Moses P. Carlock Jr. That is all I'm aware of as far as Dad's retirements. He had a military retirement that he did not leave to Mom. And he retired from Red River Hospital, and he did not leave that to Mom either. No one is aware. Mom found out at the funeral from the hospital director at that time, Mr. Mike Bullitt, said that my dad, Mr. Moses B. Carlock Jr., took it lump sum in 1993. Well, no one is aware of where that property or where that retirement went. I did have some investigation as far as his military retirement. He did have another daughter, Patrice Carlock, who I talked to personally back in 2012, and it was discovered that that's where his military retirement is, to her. But no one is aware of where the Red River retirement went.
Well, that's all I have. I'll pass the witness.
Any further questions, Mr. Mason?
Yes, Preston Carlock. Sir, I ask again, you say you're not aware of $81,000 being in my mother's account.
Asked and
Do you-
answered, Your Honor. I object.
I'll let him answer it.
You can't tell me about this, sir.
So again, back to what we said, is in the last days of my mother, her caregiver, her main caregiver was Sandra L. Seaton, who provided for my mother and was on my mother's account, had a joint account with my mother. So all information regarding to my mother's account and finances was handled by Sandra L. Seaton. So I would have to defer to her to answer that question.
Well, could I remind you then, at the time my mother was in Sandra Seaton's house, and I brought this to the family's attention, our witness, Perry Mason, witnessed y'all going into mama's room, divvying up that $80,000. You don't remember that?
So nothing's been divvied up. As far as what was in my mother's account, again, that account was a joint account with Sandra L. Seaton. She's the only person that had access to that account, again, because she was the main caregiver of Teresa Davis Carlock. from the death of my father in 2006 till her passing away in 2021. So with her being the main caregiver, that was a joint account that mom had, that Teresa had, Carlock had with Sandra L. Seaton.
So are you saying no, y'all didn't divvy up that money in this account? Is that what
Wait.
that's your answer? Is that your answer?
Owed the mail. That wasn't his business or his place.
Ms. Seaton, I've
Yes,
got
sir.
that.
Okay.
Is that the answer, sir? No, y'all did not divvy up the money. You so that's saying you wasn't aware of. I did bring it to the family attention. I told all the family about this when February the 8th when I got it out the mailbox because I always got my mother's mail. So actually, you don't remember that day when y'all divvied it up?
So the bank account that he's referencing, Your Honor, is a joint account. And when it was referenced to Sandra L. Seaton, she sought legal advice, and they said since they were on a joint account, that is her account, and she was left with that as being the sole owner of that account, and she was responsible for the funds that were left in that account.
Next question, Mr. Mason.
If this is a scenario, if Mr. Carlock had deposited his cash retirement in Teresa Carlock Davis account, how would we know that?
I wouldn't know either.
You said you investigated, but you don't know what what Teresa Carlock had in her account.
Again,
So you said you
the
investigated the matter through
investigation
the Air Force.
as
Right,
being
correct?
an active duty military member. The investigation I referenced was due to the military retirement of one Moses P. Carlock Jr. That military retirement, as a conversation led back to his biological daughter, oldest biological daughter, Patrice Carlock, and it came to my attention and from her that's where his military retirement went, was to Patrice Carlock. That was the extent of my investigation.
Okay, you didn't ask a question. If Mr. Carlock Jr. had deposited the money in my mother's account, opened up another account separate from her checking account, and it's in this statement, and he deposited his retirement, how would the family know about this money?
Again, the Red River retirement, nobody knows about. It was informed by the director of the hospital when he passed in 2006 that he took it lump sum. But I would also like to point out, if there was anything for Moses P. Carlock Jr.'s retirement, he has one son. He did not adopt anybody else in this meeting. His only son is Moses P. Carlock III. So if there
so you're telling me you're entitled to his retirement cash? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that my father
You're
only
entitled?
has one son. He never
Yeah,
adopted.
so you're claiming you're entitled to his retirement cash. Is that correct?
I'm saying it really negates your oldest son theory. He only had one son. I'm the only son.
So that entitled you to his cash retirement at Red River Hospital. Is that correct?
According to your oldest son theory.
Well,
Look,
you just said
hey, hang on. I don't know where y'all are getting your information. Let me tell you something about how bank accounts and retirement accounts work. If there is a beneficiary designated on the retirement accounts, as Mr. Carlock has stated, it goes to the beneficiary, it passes outside the estate. If there is a payable on death clause or a joint ownership of a bank account, upon the death of the one person on the account, it automatically goes to the other person on the account or who is designated on the payable on death clause. They do not pass into the estate. They are not matters for the estate.
Aren't there protocols and rules,
Thank
Your Honor,
you, Your
that they
Honor.
got to be followed by? I mean, aren't they under protocols and rules? I mean,
You don't know what
telling
you're
me
talking
that
about.
you say she can assume being on, and the woman's still living, being on this account, and she can do with this woman's money what she pleases. Is that what you're saying, Your Honor?
If there is a payable on death clause or if it was a joint account, then yes, absolutely.
It was a joint account.
Okay, well, do they have a payable debt clause?
Mr. Mason, I am not your attorney, nor do I care to educate you with regard to the law.
I'm just
Mr. Mason,
asking.
you have
brought
one
it up, John.
opportunity.
I just wanted to know if they had that. That's all.
I cannot give you legal advice.
I
Mr.
know,
Mason,
I'm just asking. Well,
Mr. Mason, you have an
okay.
opportunity to question the witness with regard to him being appointed as independent executor. Do you have any further questions for Mr. Carlock?
No, Your Honor, I'm done.
Mr. Rayfuse?
I have no other questions. I'll
Next.
rest.
Mr. Mason, with regard to Mr. Carlock being appointed independent executor, do you have any evidence or testimony or witnesses you would like to present?
It seems, Your Honor, that this has just been put in place without even any type of interjection between me and my brother. I would like to know if I can file an application for Perry Mason to be executor. Do I have it right?
You need to consult an attorney, Mr. Mason. I'm not going to give you legal advice. I'm prohibited.
Well, I would like to put
giving
in,
you legal
I would
advice.
like to, okay, I would like to submit to the courts a motion, if, I can put one together right quick, for the application movement, the title for Perry Mason. Can I have time to put that together?
No, sir. Today is the hearing for Mr. Carlock. You've had ample notice of this, as you have also filed an answer. That's the only reason I'm letting you question the witness, because you filed to represent yourself, and you cannot represent another person. You are not an attorney, sir. Even though you sign your stuff paralegal, you are not an attorney, and you cannot represent another person.
I know, I'm very aware of the law. I was just
Obviously
asking
not.
question. No problem, no problem. Okay, President Carlock, you claim to be a military. When your father, Moses President Carlock, retired from the military as well?
Yes, he was.
And at one occasion, didn't you assault your father, Moses President Carlock?
I'm not
So
answering this.
you
I'm
claim to
not
be you gonna
answering.
deny it?
I have,
Yeah, okay.
first,
Yes,
first
sir.
and foremost, let me tell you something. This is really disgraceful to this family. There's been no assault on my father's not even here. So we're not gonna have this conversation. This is, it's about the probation of my mother's will. There's nothing legally ever been filed against me. The allegation against my sisters is ludicrous. And I'm just really done with any type of questions from Mr. Mason.
Okay, I
Your
have
Honor,
one more question.
I have
When
a
you took
question.
Ms. Carlock,
No.
when you took Teresa Carlock Davis
Your
out
Honor, I
of her
object to
house,
any
was
further
there
questioning
running
of
water?
Mr. Carlock because he was not called as a witness. I released him as my witness and I rested.
Well, I have one more question.
Mr. Mason,
At the time,
Mr. Mason,
Mr. Carlock.
again,
Mr. Carlock.
again, you are ignorant of the law and the procedure.
No
Are
problem.
you,
Yes, sir.
are you calling Mr. Carlock as a witness?
Yes, I'm calling Mr. Carlock as a witness, sir.
Mr. Carlock, you're still sworn.
Okay.
Questions that are relevant to the appointment of Mr. Carlock as the executor of the estate only.
Okay. Isn't it known amongst the family that Teresa Carlock Davis wanted to die in her home?
There is nothing stated anywhere that Teresa Davis wanted to die in her home. The reason she was not in her home is that I am in the military. I was not able to get to her. We had one person in this family willing to be able to support my mother in her last days. That person is Sandra Seaton, that lived in Fort Worth, Texas. Could not be in two places at one time, which is the reason my mother ended up at the residence of Sandra Seaton for care in her last days.
For 28 days, Teresa Carlock lived at Watego. from 2007 to 2021, January, Teresa Carlock lived and under the care of Sandra Seaton, as you state. What was the reason y'all took Teresa Carlock Davis out of the house? At the time, let's say that at the time Teresa Carlock Davis was at home, did she have availability in her home for running water?
Yes.
Are you asking me, did her house have running water?
Yes. Did she have running water in her home
Yes.
to where she can bathe?
Yes. So
at the time,
at
Sandra
the
Seaton,
time,
Janelle took
okay,
her.
I'm trying to answer your question. So at the time of my mother's death, first and foremost, I'm stationed in Quantico, Virginia, for a Marine base Quantico. So in the last days of my mother's death, did she have running water? Did she have electricity? Yes, she had
I didn't
water.
say electricity. I said running water in her home.
Yes.
In
Yes, but
January
she-
and February of 2021.
Yes, she had running water. Yes, she had running water.
Oh
So
my God.
when you gave Perry Mason the key to move into the house had running water. Is that correct?
So the house had running water? Yes, the house has never
When
had
you
an issue
gave
with
Perry
running
Mason
water.
the key after mother left the house, you gave Perry Mason the key to move in the house. Did the house have running water?
To my knowledge, yes. The bills were being paid by Sandra Seaton at that time.
Okay. I'm gonna get this. So when you visited, you made an abrupt visit. Didn't you recognize new plumbing? Because this wouldn't be hard, a brass fitting on the side of Dad's house where he used to keep his water. Well, didn't you recognize the brass fitting? Didn't you see that? You walked up the side of the house. Did you see that, sir?
Mr. Mason, do you have any questions at all that are relevant to Mr. Carlock be appointed as executor as he is named under the will?
I'm trying to attack his character. He's doing a good job in deceiving the court, sir. I'd like to know this document that they sent to me, this citation, sir. It did say I had to file an answer. And then it did say that there was no challenges to the movement of title. Am I correct? So what I'm asking is, I put in a challenge in 2021, and Mr. Carlock is not being honest with the courts and answers questions because my mother didn't have running water. He gave the key to period to move in it. It didn't have running water.
That has
And
no
I just
bearing
Your
on his
Honor.
appointment.
Well, I can't get an honest answer, sir. I'm still against the idea of him being executor of this account because there would be no property for him to list, Your Honor. Only property be left to my mother is the house. The interior property has already been ransacked. Everything that she owned in that house, jewelry, silver coins, been ransacked.
Objection, Your Honor, is testifying rather than questioning the witness.
I'm already attacking his character. I can't get an honest answer out of him. So I can't, if he won't answer the question honestly, I can't can't go any further, Your Honor.
There's no questions with my character.
Any further questions, Mr. Mason?
No, Your Honor.
Next witness or evidence? Anything further, Mr. Mason?
Have any more questions? I have evidence if I could submit it.
What evidence do you have?
I have my lien I put on the house for the work I did to my mother's home for it to be able for Perry Mason to move in. It was ransacked. It was demolished.
Judicial notice,
And the water was no water.
Mr. Mason, will you hush for a second? Judicial notice has been taken of the file. In the file, it contains your answer, the lien, and other documents, as well as the account that you have referenced. I will take judicial notice of those documents as they have been filed of record with the court. Go ahead.
Okay. 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 If your intent is so sincere about Michael Mason being crippled and when mother really was trying to work to get him right, and Sandra being in the position she is with her husband, and your only recourse is to sell a home and put Perry Mason on the streets, is that fair?
As one of the 5 members listed on the home, Mr. Mason would receive 1/5 of the proceeds of the home, on top of the fact that Mr. Mason has lived rent-free for 14 months. So it is not putting him on the street. Mr. Mason would be glad to stay in the home during the selling of the house, as long as he cooperated with the realtors and was allowed to be cooperative with showing the house. No issues there. No one's trying to put him on the street, but I think that we could make the profit that we would receive would assist him with gaining additional living quarters for him and his family. On top of the fact again that he's had 14 months to correct any of his financial issues.
In those 14 months you just mentioned, did you pay the taxes at 1704 North Beverly?
Absolutely not. One of the agreements for Mr. Mason to move in 14 months ago is that he would be responsible for the taxes on that house.
Okay, so you say, okay, I can't argue that because it's not correct. It's not true. It's untrue. Okay, so being in the period to pay the taxes, and he's continuing to pay the taxes on the home, you're going to just take that right to him as Homestead Act away from him?
So again, there's 5 names listed on the house. The house is owned by 5 members. 4 of those members are in agreement to sell the house.
So when you become executor, your intent will be to sell the house, correct?
Absolutely. But Mr. Mason we'd be glad for Mr. Mason to buy the house. If his desire is to reside in the house, by all means, nobody would deny him for purchasing the home at its current value. And that was the intent.
Say, what if, okay, you get your way and you're going to sell a home, are you willing to pay the lien on the house?
I'm not aware of a lien on the house, Your Honor. If there is a current lien on the home, and if there is a current lien on the home, it's not to my understanding why there would be a lien on the home, because there's only 5 individuals that have a name on that home that could place a lien on that house.
Yeah. As a contractor, I placed a lien on the house. I did the work. And I had it right as a contractor.
Okay, so there's 4 other owners of this home that did not support your working on that house.
Gentlemen, we are getting very far away from anything that is relevant to Mr. Carlock's application to be appointed as executor. Where you are going to is a hearing on the release of proceeds on the house. If there's a question with regard to any liens or division, it can be made at that time.
Preston, again, I asked, when you gave Perry the keys to the house, was there running water in the house?
Oh my God.
Asked and answered, Mr. Mason, move on.
I'm just trying to get his honest answers, Your Honor, because I know it wasn't running water in the house. I mean,
Mr. Mason, just because he is not giving you the answer that you want doesn't mean he is not answering the question.
Well, it's not that he don't know. He know there was no water in the house, okay? Because that was the reason they took Teresa Carlock Davis from a home.
And again,
that hadn't been brought up. But if he becomes executor, that's going to take the responsibility of the other co-executor from this probate, Your Honor. And she has a responsibility as well.
Well, we just said there's no co-executor.
Not until she is, not unless and until she is appointed as a co-executor. It is my understanding that Ms. Seaton does not wish to be a co-executor? That it would be Mr. Carlock. Next question, evidence or witness?
I would like to bring a witness, Perry Mason.
That will be fine.
If I may. Yeah, still over there.
Mr. Mason,
Perry,
can you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Perry Mason. At the time, my mother was at 6103 Caton Court with Tager, and I informed you of her bank account. Then you witnessed Sandra and Preston in a room debating and deciding what they're gonna do with that money.
Well, Preston told me the next day he got his $10,000 right off top. So Sandra paid him $10,000 right off the rip. So my mama wasn't even dead. You know what I'm talking
Mr. Mason, when Preston Carlock gave you the key to Teresa Carlock Davis' home and said you could move in it, was there running water in that house?
No, it wasn't.
Was this-
Mama complained about that water because it's a big leak in the back where the water was flooding underneath the house. My mama complained about that water because she couldn't wash dishes, she couldn't take a shower, and she couldn't wash clothes
Nor use the facilities
in the house. So we had to replace the
really
water.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Mason, at the time, Sandra Seaton had Teresa Carlock Davis in the house. Did she look healthy as she was in January when you came to visit her in the same year?
Well, if I can remember at that time, Sandra did take sick. She was on the philosophy bag for about 2 or 3 months in the hospital. That's what I remember.
So who was the caretaker at that time for Teresa Carlock Davis?
The caretaker at that time for those 3-month period of time that Sandra Seaton was out, was James Mason. My brother, James.
And who would take Teresa Carlock Davis for those 3 months to dialysis?
You would, James Mason.
Who would take Teresa Carlock Davis to the grocery shopping?
You would.
Who would take Teresa Carlock Davis to her doctor's appointments?
At that time, you did.
Okay.
Mr. Mason. At the time, Teresa Carlock Davis was in with Tager at 6130, whatever that is, Caton Court. Did she look healthy in her first week there when you saw her?
My mama was walking and talking when she left Wichita Falls. When she got to Watega, she couldn't talk, nor could she walk.
Mr. Mason, being that you already proved that Preston Carlock knew about this $80,000 in Teresa Carlock Davis account, would you
Objection,
say?
Your Honor, I
from the-
object to the form of the question.
Okay, I'll be praised.
And-
Mr.
Rephrase your
Mason,
question.
at the time Mr. Carlock Jr. had died, did you witness any extreme buying of homes from Mr. Carlock the third and Sandra and their family buying new cars?
Well, what I remember at the funeral of my dad, I paid $1,700 for his funeral because there was no money. My mama said she had no money.
So therefore, the $80,000 wasn't in her account at that time.
No.
Okay. So, Mr. Mason, at the time, after Mr. Carlock's death, maybe a year, 2 years, didn't Preston Carlock start buying homes?
I don't.
I'm sorry, I'll change the question. Mr. Mason, at the time of my mother's death, didn't you witness at the funeral, police cars?
Yep, they even thought I was you and stopped me before I got to the funeral.
Okay. Mr. Mason, you witnessed Sandra and her kids and all of who I can't say, Janelle and everybody else at my 1704 North Beverly Drive after they buried Teresa Carlock Davis. And when I appeared with my wife and her daughter, didn't they pull guns on me?
Yes, they did. They had AK-47s, 45s, 9mm. They had it all.
And didn't Mr. Mason, James Mason, call the police on them?
Yes, I thought
There was a report made. Mr. Mason, didn't you also witness the threats from them when they first got the case out of Wichita County? That the Ortega detective refused to submit, and then you witnessed them saying that that they're not gonna worry about what I filed, and that there's nothing that I can do about it, you know, because they got control of my mama's probate. Then you witnessed them taking full control of the property with no.
Well, the only thing I witnessed is when we left the funeral, we all went to Mama's house. Sandra and her crew went in, her stepsons and all them went in. And then when you drove up, that's when the guns appeared.
Was President Carlock there?
Yeah, he was there.
Okay.
He was at the funeral. I don't know, but when all that commotion started, there was a lot of things going on. I never, you know.
Okay, no problem. What can you say? What type of threats did the nephews come to you with when they found out that they?
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
That's relevance. No, it's not even close to being relevant.
Well,
No, I don't want to hear the answer because there's an objection. The objection is sustained. Move
Okay,
on.
next question. Okay. At the time my mother's death, and you, President, told you that that he had got his $10,000 out of my mother's account. Didn't you feel that to be kind of like, you know, wrong?
well, first off, you know, when Preston came to me, this is the reason why I rejected him being whatever he trying to be. When Preston came to me and told me that Sandra got the money, she's gonna split it up between everybody, and he got his right off top.
So that means that Ammons told her to divide the money up. Is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Ammons and Ammons is a law firm and it's also hearsay.
Sustained. Mr. Mason, you have that statement right there in front of you, don't you?
What statement is that, sir?
The $80,000 statement you keep referring to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you read what's on the right-hand side of that?
Yes.
Wells Fargo, up in the right corner.
Keep going down.
At the bottom, it says count number.
No, the names on that statement.
Teresa
The name.
Carlock Davis and Sandra L. Seaton.
And Sandra Seaton.
Yes,
Mr. Mason, that is a joint account.
correct.
Either party is entitled to the entire amount of the account.
So as executive, this is all her money, 81,000. Is that what you're saying?
No,
This is
I am not saying that. She is not the executor. She has not been appointed executor. That is a joint account. We had a
So-
discussion a while ago about joint accounts and payable on death and right of survivorship. Do you remember that?
Okay, but what I'm asking, Judge, is that in $80,000 a bit, a large amount to be having access to, and Teresa Carlock Davis wasn't even aware of it?
I have no idea about what a large
Okay.
amount is or is not. What I do
I
know
have
is
another question.
joint account.
Okay, I have a
is owned
question
by
for
both
my.
individuals.
Okay, okay.
Move on. I want
Period.
questions that pertain to Mr. Carlock, not
Perry
Ms. Seaton.
Mason. Okay, Perry Mason. Did you not witness, get this right.
Your chief.
Okay. That's it. I guess that's the only questions I got for you right now, but I'll move on. Can I get another person to,
Hang on a second. Mr. Rayfuse, do you have any questions of this witness?
For purposes of this application, I do not.
Thank you. Next witness.
I like to call Janelle Thibodeau.
Ms. Thibodeau, can you raise your right hand? You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Oh, no, yes.
Only questions that pertain to this appointment of Mr. Carlock as executor. Go ahead.
Janelle, when I informed the family of this $80,000 that belonged to Sandra now, since the court had told me of that money, was you aware of that large amount of money being in the hands of your sister?
I wasn't on the bank account, so no.
Okay. Pertaining to Teresa Carlock Davis on the date February 6th, when you and Sandra came down to take Teresa Carlock Davis from her home, was Teresa Carlock Davis reluctant, or was she anxious to stay at home, or was she screaming and hollering, saying that she didn't want to leave?
No.
She willing to do it.
Okay. All right. So being that you was the one that told me, and I was the one on the phone hearing my mother scream, saying she didn't want to leave her house, you gonna tell me that again you didn't hear that coming from her house when Sandra was pulling her out the back door?
There was nobody pulled out the back door, and no, she was not screaming. Actually, I was there. She was willing to get her stuff and go. She knew she could stay in the house alone like that. It's dark around there, and she was ready to go.
Okay, so do you think Preston Carlock has the character to handle Teresa Carlock Davis' estate, being that you know it's nothing left in the home, it's nothing but the house to be sold? Did you get any of the artifacts of Teresa Carlock estate? Did you have your dibs in for the washer or dryer? Do you know what that is?
Section multiple questions. Can you break it down, please?
Rephrase
Yeah,
that,
you
Mr. Mason.
gave me too much at one time. I'm 63, man. Just slow down.
Okay, referring to Mr. Moses Preston Carlock, claiming the executor at the time that he's claiming to get right now. Then he claimed to the family in person as he was the executor by will, and did he tell you that too as well? And didn't Sandra go around and telling everybody they co-executors, so they had the right to do what they want with mother's property? All I want to know is, when you went into the house, were you already given property from Teresa Carlock Davis, a ring, a necklace, or something, anything like that?
A necklace? No, man.
Well, what was given to you in the will?
You don't have the will?
Okay. All right. So
Actually, some of the stuff that was supposed to be given to me in the will is still in Perry Mason's storage room.
Oh,
okay.
that I'm paying for.
Okay.
Well-
So therefore, okay, next question. So you think Preston Carlock is handling your mother's affairs correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So you think selling the home and taking the legacy of Teresa Carlock Davis and Moses Preston Carlock Jr. and selling it is good? I mean, they worked hard for that home, correct?
I know it would be good. It would help Michael Mason. He is in a wheelchair. And I don't think that it's fair for Perry Mason to live in it for free. He was supposed to buy it. What happened?
Well, at the time, the $80,000 was divvied up. The president got his 10. Were they concerned about Michael Mason walking in?
Okay, again, this is not a family feud. I'm not getting more into this. I have explained to you 3 times about how accounts are structured. Now, Mr. Mason, if you're a paralegal, like you say you are, when you sign things, you would know the difference. If you
Yes,
don't
I
have
understand
any
what you're saying,
questions that
sir.
are relevant to Mr. Carlock being appointed as executor as he's requested, then
Yes,
you
I
are going to
understand.
forfeit your right to question the witness.
Okay. All right. I'll pass the witness, sir.
Anything, Mr. Rayfuse?
I don't have any questions for this witness with regards to the application.
Mr. Mason, next witness.
Sandra Seaton.
Miss Seaton, can you raise your right hand for me?
Yes, sir.
You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
So help me God. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Mason, questions relevant to Mr. Carlock being appointed as executor as it states in the will.
Okay. So I understand, Ms. Seaton, that you want Mr. Preston Carlock to be the executor as will. Can you tell me your reasoning? What you going to benefit from him being executor?
Because Lord James Mason, if we have to deal with you, Lord help us. I do not have none objections of Moses Preston Carlock being the executor of the will. That's why your mama
Okay.
didn't leave you. I'm sorry, Judge, but he asked me and I'm answering. That's why she didn't even leave you on the house.
Okay, so on the wheel of Teresa Carlock Davis, there was a car, 8696 Buick that was given to Perry Mason. Could you tell
Yes,
me
sir.
how that car got
Did
sabotaged,
what?
wires cut underneath it? I mean, because as executor, Preston Carlock is responsible for that property. Did you, or were you aware of that?
Mr.
What-
Mason, again, hang on. Mr. Mason, again, nobody has been appointed as executor to this point. That is what this application is for.
Well, then, Your Honor, I got a problem because they
Yes, I agree.
perpetrated,
You do.
perpetrated the fraud before this come up. From the time my mother died, saying their executorship, they got the executorship. Nobody had authority to her property. Nobody, they got in, that's what they claim, Your Honor. They didn't have the executorship because I have the document here proving executorship, but is it correct for them to falsify an authoritative position?
Mr. Mason, it's not correct for anybody to falsify anything. What I am telling you is there is nobody who has been appointed by a court as executor. That is what this hearing is about.
Okay, so, okay, all right, okay. Sandra Seaton, you were on the phone with Preston Carlock when I was at 1704 North Beverly. You told the police officer at that time that you was the executor and you wanted meat bar from the property. Is that correct?
According to the will, my mother named me and Preston Carlock as the executors. If you read the will, and if you need a copy, I will send it to you for the 100th time. That's what she had in her will. I was trying to get it probated through Mr. Amos, but because you harassed that lawyer so bad, he refused to do it. Any more questions?
Well, you didn't answer the question I asked.
At the will that's presented in front of you and the courts, my mother left the executor with me and Preston.
So that gave you right to do as you please with Teresa Carlock Davis property. That gave you right to bar me from my mother's home. Is that correct?
I wouldn't have had Perry Mason move in. That was Preston's decision to let Perry move in it and to pay the taxes and to live there until he got his credit straight. I was told about it. I didn't agree, but I didn't agree. Anything else, James Mason?
Okay.
I wasn't homeless.
Okay, as perpetrating the fraud of being an
Preston tried to
executor.
give him a break and let him. to continue to live in the house. Perry didn't do what he promised.
Mr.
So
Mason,
that's why we are here now.
Mr. Mason,
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Seaton has not made application to be co-executor. If you have any
Okay.
questions relevant to Mr. Carlock being appointed executor, you may ask them of her. Other than that, they are irrelevant to these proceedings. If you have issues with regard to the property, then I suggest you seek legal counsel.
Okay. Sandra, at the time you and Preston were co-executors, could you tell me, and I'm saying, I'm gonna take this back to when it all come out, mother died in February. And what was it that you became part of her, as a part of her vacant account? Could you give me the date that you became the executor of her account? What date did you get this? Power of attorney.
Objection, Your Honor.
over
This
her account.
assumes facts, not in evidence.
Sustained.
Okay, so was Preston Carlock aware of you being that? Did y'all discuss this issue together?
I refuse to answer. Excuse me, Your Honor. Your dumbass
I'll pass
questions,
it.
Eddie.
Hang on. That's it. We're done.
Definitely.
Ms. Seaton, you're supposed to answer the questions, and that will come up in another hearing, I imagine.
Yeah.
Mr. Mason, do you have any
I'm
questions of this
trying to go
witness?
see my husband.
Mr. Mason, do you have any
Yes, sir.
further questions that are relevant to this proceeding?
She's showing her fingers.
Okay, Your Honor, all I'm going on is what they had told me they was co-executors. Now you're saying they wasn't executors.
No
But at the
one
time,
has been named executor of this estate, period.
okay,
If they are
Alright.
named in the will to be co-executors. To become an executor by the court, you have to file an application, which Mr. Carlock has. That is what the hearing is about. To this point, there is no executor or co-executor of the estate. They are simply named in the will as the preference of the decedent.
Sandra Seaton, on the day my mother's died, and you was at 1704 North Beverly, why did you and your crew pull all them assault guns on James Mason, his wife, and her daughter?
That has no relevance to this proceeding.
Okay, well, that's the character she was aiming to be.
Her
That's all
character
I've got
is
today.
not in question.
Okay,
She
okay,
was
I
called
got
as a
it.
witness by you. She has not made application to be co-executor. As a matter of fact, she has declined to be co-executor.
Your
Probably
Honor,
the
Seaton,
smartest
you
decision
declined to be
anyone has made
co-executor?
today.
Okay, could I ask a question, then, Your Honor?
You can ask a question if it is relevant to Mr. Carlock being appointed as executor of this estate.
Okay. Then if you agreed to Mr. Carlock to be an executive of the state, why did you decline, Sandra Seaton?
why did I decline, Mr. James Mason? Because that's my right. And I wanted Preston to oversee this because I did not want to deal with none of this chaos that's going on.
Okay, well, I'll ask you this
That's the
question
honest
again.
truth. I can only
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Again, at 1704 Beverly, when Preston Carlock and Perry Mason was there getting it. cleaning
James, don't
mama's
you
house.
get it? This is about,
Hang on. Let me handle this, please.
thank you.
But Preston Carlock was on the phone and talking to Sandra, and she had James Mason borrowed from the house, and I just want her to agree that she did that, in accordance, showing character of these Preston Carlock in agreement, being a major. What was a threat that day, She made that call
Your Honor,
over
can
the
I?
phone.
Be my guest. Why not?
I had to call the FBI, Wichita Falls Police Department, Watauga Police Department, and I can get the records for you because James Edward Mason was telling everyone, especially Preston, what he was going to do to me. He first of all, excuse me, went into my mother's mailbox after I had did a change of address and stole our bank statement. I even called the Wichita Falls police, where they send the mail, I'm sorry. And when I went up there, there's a young black male that worked there, said that he was so loud that he went on and put the mail back in the mailbox. What happened between me and my mother and her account, as you have told him, that was our business. I've taken care of my mother since 2007 when my dad passed. James Edward Mason was constantly stealing money because I would take her to the bank. She would draw out money, leave it in her house, and he was stealing it. And if she sent him to the store, he would keep the money. We all was aware of that. So was my mother screaming? Believe that was his question. I had the dialysis center call me. Her home health nurse called me and told me it was time that I took my mother out of her house to take care of her. As upon of arrival, when I got my mother to Watauga, I made doctor's appointments, got her set up in dialysis, and continued to take care of her until her health deteriorated. James Mason would call my mother's phone. She was not able to answer the phone. Would come out of my mother's mouth, go get $20. That's all he wants is money. That's hearsay, but that's what my mother said. I have taken care of her as far as I can remember. I took care of her and my dad as far as I can remember. I was the primary caregiver because I retired in 2013 from the Federal Bureau of Prison. From the Justice Department, I retired. Once I retired, I had more time to spend with my mother. And I definitely did that and took care of her. Would not change a thing.
For 3 months in 2020, that's October, November, December, and January, 4 months, when you was in surgery and you was unable to take care of Teresa Carlock Davis, who took care of Teresa Carlock Davis?
During my procedure, I was out for 2 weeks and you was there with her and her home health nurse that I can give you names and numbers to. You would take her, my car, to dialysis. Remember the Mitsubishi? You couldn't even have a decent enough car to take her to dialysis. So I left my car down there so she was able to go get treatment. Yes, you did help a couple of months.
So
it wasn't being properly taken care of. I was at dialysis center. I was asked by the home health nurse. I was asked by Dr. Paloma to take my mother back with me because that's all they knew was me being there for my mother to take care of her. And that's what I did.
Did Teresa Carlock Davis ever tell you that she wanted to die in her own home?
My mother never wanted to be home. She was not able to take care of herself any longer. That's why I had to remove her. You can talk to Dr. Paloma. You can talk to the dialysis center, the ones that called me and told me it was time for me to remove my mother from her house because she was no longer able to take care of herself.
At the time you removed Teresa Carlock Davis from her home, James Mason called you and was on the phone and he heard Teresa Carlock Davis screaming. Is that correct?
Excuse me? I didn't hear the question.
At the time you was taking Teresa Carlock out of her home, was she resisting?
No, James Mason, she was not resisting.
I'm through with her, Your Honor.
Then you said you was
I'll
on.
pass it on, Your Honor.
All right.
I'll pass it on.
Hang on. Mr. A. Fuse, any questions of this witness?
No, Your Honor, not with regards to the application.
Thank you. All right, Mr.
I'll
Mason.
call Michael Mason to the stand. I know it. Michael Mason, sir.
Is Mr. Mason present?
You have to excuse it. He's in the restroom right now.
You have any other witnesses,
time.
Mr. Mason?
He's coming. Hold on.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mason, can you raise your right hand for me, sir?
Yes, sir.
You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Mason, questions that pertain and are relevant to Mr. Carlock being appointed as executor.
Mr. Mason, pertaining to Mr. Carlock being appointed as executor, and at the same time you was found out about that substantial amount of money, could you trust Mr. Carlock being executor? And do you think Mr. Carlock would really look out for your benefit?
I know at one time he said he would, and then he changed his mind. So I was upset, but I love all my brothers and sisters, and I'm not gonna take no sides. I'm just gonna say the truth, and the truth was, yeah, he did say that to me. He did wanna,
But if we,
yeah, but if we kept the house, you know,
so
yeah.
Okay, so pertaining to Preston Carlock Davis, if just, just an imagination, if Preston Carlock, excuse me, not Davis, Preston Carlock, if just take it, assuming that if mom did have that, for dad's retirement money, wouldn't you think you would be the first one that she would spend her money on?
Yes.
Okay, so did $80,000, you just needed $10,000 to get your treatment, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so they come into a substantial amount of money. Can you trust them now? I mean, they didn't try to get your treatment earlier, did they? You needed $10,000 to get treatment. Did they help you in any way for that?
No.
Okay, but Preston got his $10,000.
Oh, but Sandra has always been the one taking care of me, always been the one looking out for me. She has put her heart and soul in my life. And I always have needed my sisters because I knew they would be there for me more than anybody. They have been there for me through thick and thin. And I love them for it. I can't turn my back on them because I love them so much.
I think that's enough. He's emotional now.
Next, Mr. Mason, do you have any questions again that are relevant to Mr. Carlock? The
No,
questions you're
sir.
asking are
No,
not
sir.
relevant.
No.
So I asked Mr. Michael Mason. So you're telling me that you trust Preston when he's
answered your
acquired the money for this?
He has answered that question.
He said no too.
No. Trust Preston.
No, I trust Preston.
Okay. I'll recant. I don't. He changed his tune. All right. Thank you, Your Honor. No more questions.
Mr. Rayfuse, I assume you have no questions for this witness.
No, Your Honor.
Anything further, Mr. Mason?
No, sir. No, sir. But thank you, Judge.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Any other witnesses, testimony, or evidence?
No.
Your Honor, I did in my answer ask the court if they can get some information for me. Could I get that information? I requested the court if they could find out for me that you had to privy to that information, what was actually deposited in my mother's account at the time of Moses Preston Carlock dead. And that would surely be sufficient if I had that information. Because
I have no power over that, nor is the court allowed to make any investigations like that.
Oh, okay, then no, my bad. Okay. Well, I'm gonna deal with what I can do, bro. It's at the mercy of the court.
Anything?
I have no more questions, Your Honor.
All right. Courts applied the appropriate evidentiary standard, finds it has jurisdiction over both the parties and the subject matter of the suit. The court will name Mr. Carlock, the applicant, as the independent executor as stated in the will. As Ms. Seaton has declined to serve, therefore Mr. Carlock will be serving in sole capacity as independent executor. Mr. Rayfuse, you're to forward an order to that effect, along with all the other pertinent documents to have Mr. Carlock named as executor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.